wanted to make a video attempting to repair a couple of Rogers Knobby brackets. I have two of my brackets here that are just slightly loose. They're not too bad. I've seen much worse cases than these, but I figured I'd put some footage out there on this sort of process because I haven't seen a video on it before. I've spoken to a guy who is a vintage drum repair guy at one of the prominent drum shops here on the East Coast, the Northeast. And I also spoke to Poe about a few things, but I've never done this before. And kind of don't know what I'm getting into, but it's not rocket science, so I'm going to see if I can stop these things from jiggling a little bit. I was going to do it at my studio, where I do have a workbench with a vise and some pneumatic tools and stuff like that, but I thought it'd be fun to sort of do it at home with minimum tools, stuff that you guys could probably find in the junk drawers at your house. I mean, everybody's got a junk drawer, right? So all I have here is one of these disposable little box cutter joints, a little paintbrush that I took from my daughter, a pack of the J-B Weld, and then the two Knobby brackets. What I did first was kind of just took this razor blade here and sort of just scuffed up right around this piece here that I'm going to be welding with the J-B Weld. Just enough for it just to kind of give the epoxy a little something to bite onto. So you can see I kind of scraped it up with the razor blade, this one as well. Just kind of scraped it up. I might do a little more scraping before I mix up the epoxy and apply it. But this is what I'm starting with here. So I'm going to go ahead and mix the epoxy and put it on and leave these bad boys to dry overnight and see what happens. So join me on this little adventure. So I got my little paper bowl here. 2 tubes of J-B Weld. One's the fastener, one's the hardener. And I remember my old man using this stuff a lot when I was a kid for all sorts of applications. And what he would always tell me is that to put a little more of the hardener in than the fastener. He said it would cure quicker. But I'm gonna go ahead and just do even amounts. This is the 15-hour stuff, so I don't gotta hurry too much or worry about things hardening up on me. So I'm just gonna kind of put even amounts of each one on the plate here. You don't want to get this stuff on your hands. It's a little bit nasty. I mean, it washes off pretty easily, but if it hardens up on you, it's a little bit nasty. And then put the hardener right next to it here. I should probably pop the seal. An even amount of the hardener right next to it. Maybe for homage to the old man, I'll put a little extra hardener. Why not? Excuse me, feeling a little cold here. Then I'm going to take that knife that I had before and just kind of mix the two together. It's pretty thick feeling stuff. You want to kind of get it mixed pretty good so it turns to a dark gray. So to keep from boring you, I'm going to continue to mix this stuff up and get you back in the process when I start applying. So I got everything mixed up here, and so actually what's happening here, in case anybody's unfamiliar with this, is this plate here is originally welded to this knobby piece here, and sometimes over time the weld that's inside in that crease just becomes a little loose. And like I said, mine aren't that bad, but you can hear that this plate is just rocking ever so slightly, and it will worsen over time. And But these really aren't too bad. I just kind of wanted to do this as an experiment. And I was considering the whole, the ball peen hammer technique. The guy that I spoke to at that drum shop, the repair guy, was saying that is a good technique. He uses it sometimes, but he also stated that that will, over time, loosen back up, and when it does, it most commonly loosens worse than it was before. He likes the J-B Weld version. He kind of gave me some pointers on how to do it. And like I said, I usually like to do things my own way, so I'm just going to kind of experiment here. And I was going to use this paintbrush here, but I don't even think I'm gonna go for that. I'm just going to go straight from this knife here to the weld right onto this piece, and I'm going to try to get the weld just right, as close as into that crease as I can, and maybe just fill this little reservoir here with it a bit, and just kind of try to seal right around this knurled edge, kind of like this rough edge here that's kind of like the edge of a quarter or a dime. It's kind of knurled there, as you can see that. So I'm just going to sort of fill that a little bit with the epoxy and hope it bites onto there and just stops that rocking a little bit. And the cool thing about the J-B Weld, once it does set and cure and dry, it's sandable. So if I do get it on there and it's a little bit getting in the way of me reinstalling the bracket, I could always just kind of sand it down to flush again. So I'm just gonna putty some of this stuff on here like that and just sort of fill it in a bit. I'm not going to fuss too much about it because it is on the inside of the bracket, and once I have enough on there, I'll just kind of start shaping it around. Sort of a little off-the-cuff home remedy style stuff, the way I like to do things usually. I was saying earlier, my old man used to use this stuff all the time on car parts and all sorts of stuff, and they would, man, that stuff would hold for decades, man. So I got full faith that this will hold, a little bit of a loose bracket. So I'm just kind of caking this on, and then gonna smooth it out a little so it's not real clumpy. And just make sure it's going over that edge and covering that knurled part, and not leaking too much outside of that little reservoir that I had scuffed up. Just sort of flatten it out a bit. And we'll see in a second how that turns out. So that's about all I'm going to do there. Just kind of caked it around. I'm going to let that sit overnight and see what happens. Like I said, it looks pretty flush. I don't know if I will need to sand at all. I doubt it. But if I do, that's no big deal. I'm just going to leave that to sit like that and see if it stops our little jiggle. So I got these two brackets here curing on my little rock and roller cart that I use to haul my drums around on, and going to use gravity to my advantage, just kind of hanging them upside down like that. They just happen to fit perfectly in that little slot. It looks okay. I'm not looking for a work of art or any sort of perfection. I'm just looking to stop the jiggle. Don't really care how the inside looks. So we'll check back in with that tomorrow, see if it worked, and then we'll put them back on, see how it goes. See you in about 15 hours or so. So it's been about 17 hours, and the epoxy is set. The jiggle is gone. But at this point, I feel like any heavy-duty glue or epoxy would be able to stop my hands from making it jiggle. I think the true test is going to be once it's on the drum, being hit a lot, moved around, to see if it helps in the long term. But like I said, I have no doubt that it will. I've seen this stuff used on engine parts under extreme heat, vibration, sometimes pressure, and be successful. So I have full faith that, you know, just a floor tom leg will hold, but we shall see. But up until this point, all is good, and I'm not seeing any problem with the epoxy itself being obstructing the way the bracket will set back onto the shell. But I'm gonna put them back on right now, and we'll see what happens. So she looks great, she sounds great, there's no rocking or anything, but as I said, time will tell. And I think it was a successful mission. For now, we'll see. In the long run, if it holds up, I suspect it will. Thanks everybody for watching.